Okay. I think we'll make a start. Welcome. I'm sure some other people will mill in from outside. There's still a lot of people wandering around out there. But we won't lose any time, so we'll start now. Welcome to the Video Expert Panel, the first of the video sessions. My name is Tim Boundy. I'm your chair for this expert panel. The other panel members are listed here. I should mention that René is a very late addition, standing in for Eric, so he doesn't really know what the questions are yet, but the rest of the panel have been pre-warned of some of it, and will introduce themselves in a second. I'm Tim Boundy. I work for Janet. I'm also the lead of EduConf, so I have some interest in the video technologies myself. The format for today is going to be initial presentations from the panel. They've each been given 7 minutes to try and answer a question, which is a very broad question, and they can approach it any way they see fit. After that, we have some two more set questions that they've been given notice of. And then following that, the floor is open to you to grill them as much as you can. So don't go easy. These guys, if they're going to sit here and have the title of expert, they should be able to answer some pretty hard questions. So we will start off in the, gentlemen will be in the order that we have listed here, if you want to turn around and work out which order you're going to be in. So Marcus, you're first. And their presentations are just on the desktop of this computer, so we'll give them a 30-second gap to set it up in between. The question, I should put this on the screen, that the experts have been asked to answer is, what is the most exciting aspect of video conferencing approaching over the next 2 years? So you can see that this is a pretty broad question. And I should point out to them all that there will be a timer just down here on the right of the podium on my laptop to make you feel really pressured. So if you want to get your, you can just click escape and your presentation should be on the desktop. Yeah, you can minimize it and then, yeah. That would be a challenge. Go on, do each other's at random. Yep. Yeah. And then hit the thing down here. Okay. Go. We need another. There's another handheld microphone. I think you can. Where's the? So you can pass it between you when you do the speaking. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what is the most exciting aspect of video communication? I'm Marcus Schneider, working with Sunet, the Swedish NRAN, and here's my email address. And to me, I think the most exciting aspect is how we're going to use it. So how we're going to use video communication the next 2 years and the years after that. And why is that the most interesting question is because I feel that the majority of the challenge to making use and making benefits of video communication lies in the education of our users and how learning is benefiting from the use of video communication. Just a little bit of a background. Sunet Media Services is, since 2010, a web conferencing service that is based on Adobe Connect. Since 2013, we're making use of the Nordonet MCU infrastructure and providing an MCU service to our users. And since 1 month ago, so I could say there is a new video-on-demand service we call Sunet Play, and that's based on the Kaltura platform. And we already have some 6 universities that have signed contract with Sunet. If you're back in a bit, then there is 1 customer at the moment for the MCU service, and then of course we dive a bit more into Connect. At the moment there are practically all the universities in Sweden that make use of Connect. So Connect, okay, thanks. So Connect would be the de facto standard for web conferencing and video communication in Sweden. It's an on-premise install that is run by Nordonet, and that you probably already know. And we happen to be the largest European academic on-prem customer for Adobe, which also made it easy to get into the customer advisory board, where we are at the moment, and it gives us the advantage of being able to get 2 versions ahead information about what's going on and make our decisions on how we should take it to the next level. This is the usage pattern at the moment, and as you see, it's quite a stable pattern that we have. People having holidays there in July in Sweden, and you would say that they even have a Christmas break. And otherwise, it's like it's a steadily growth, about 10 to 15% in this is concurrent users using the Adobe Connect service in Sweden. And it also gives you a picture of that this is not in any case disruptive. It's a slow thing that's going on. This has been the last 4 years, and you see this is not something that changes how universities do their education, how they run their meetings. It's a thing that comes slowly but steadily. So how is Connect used then in our universities? We would say there's a couple of administrative meetings usage for Connect. It would be used in project groups, and predominantly there's a usage for distance education for all kinds of synchronous events. So there would be all different phases of blended learning and e-learning. But of course, when you just give the universities a piece of technology like we did without trying to direct them into a specific kind of use, they would try to do everything with it. So you would also see users of Adobe Connect then for lecture capture and instructional video, even if the results are questionable at times then. So how do we organize our work with how we support our different users and end users? It started off as a collaborative effort with the universities, getting together the ones that signed onto the service and did sort of instructional material together, staffing a virtual national Connect support room, and giving each other evidence of what they've achieved so far. What we found out in the beginning was that there is not one solution for a university on how you could achieve a wide usage of video communication, of web conferencing at the university, because the organizational surroundings and institutional support staffing differs quite a lot then between the different universities. So what we engaged a lot was some knowledge and experience sharing events, and that would be normally our biannually user meetings within the SUNET days. And of course, there during the last couple of years we had some particular interest in investigating how we could promote the use of interactivity, especially in large group meetings. And also we had some take on using video communication in open educational practice. If you're interested, there is a project, OER Sweden, oersverige.se, and Effective Webinars WordPress.org. What we found by that, we don't really know if there's a causal dependency on that, but this is a one shot in the beginning of the term when we have our peaks. The number of large group online meetings is increasing, so you would find more of a use of webinar style in our universities, and hopefully it's been the outcome of some of our efforts that we trying to make our users proficient. So, but this is all stats and it's quantitative. So why I'm especially interested in what I think we should discuss a bit more is then what is the good use of Connect? What makes it really beneficiary, and how do we really know that e-meetings and online meetings are run proficiently and in a good way? And so we asked our customers in a virtual dialogue that, well, how do you know Connect is used efficiently at your university or effectively? And the short answer to that was that we have no idea, because people can't find the time to do systematic evaluations on what they're doing, on what their teachers and their end users are doing. And so that's what I think we need to take a bit more collaborative effort in trying to find out.
Thank you. They couldn't see the clock there, but he hit that spot on with about a minute extra. Thank you, Marcus. Jan, let's get yours up.
You already have it loaded?
Possibly. Is it that one?
No, it would be that one.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not that terrified by 7 minutes because I'm used to sharing lightning talk sessions that last for 5 minutes. So 7 minutes is plenty. The really exciting thing I think is going to come is change in the real-time communication space. So I work for Uninet, Norwegian NREN, and is that better? Is that better? Yes. Okay. Then I'll keep it there. And I work as part of the eCampus program, which is a 5-6 year national program for building the next generation e-learning infrastructure, the competence to use it, and enable the Norwegian higher education sector to transform the way it does education. Our job is to put technology in context and to take away barriers for adoption. So in Norway we have the whole shebang. We have the SIP infrastructure, we have the MCU stuff, we do have the Adobe Connect service. After years of debate, the consensus in the sector is finally that Microsoft Link is the way to go for unified communication. We have the framework agreement, so lots of stuff is in place. What is not really in place is knowledge on how to effectively use this. And what we're also seeing is that there's still deficiencies in the technology. Certain aspects have not matured enough. Now I'm going to name 4 things that I believe are going to change that. So the first one, I already mentioned that, the deployment of Microsoft Link on a large scale. That is going to change something. Because now we actually have something where institutions, the ones that have made the choice, that are going for full-scale deployment, they are also offering in full-scale support, and they're changing the way they work. We have at least one institution that did this like 4 years ago, and they made a conscious choice, they're really going for it, and they're saving a lot of money on travel, and we got reports that they're changing the way that they work, and now that they're using it in education, they report that they get far more students from all over the country. So for them this changed something. Now with Tromsø University, who just made that decision, this is going to be more interesting in a way. The previous one I mentioned, they have like 3 campuses and it takes a 2 to 3 hour drive to get from one place to the other. Tromsø has less of a problem there, if we disregard Finnmark for just a tiny moment. But I'm really keen to learn what they're going to experience in deploying this and how that's on campus and how that's going to change the way people work there. A second thing I think we should track with interest is room-based solutions. So up until now, that has been monolithical, expensive stuff. But with all the current technology trends, you can now build this as componentry at a lot lower price point. So that's going to give us more flexible rooms, and it gives us the ability to deploy them far more widely. Thirdly, and that is something that I've been working on for the last year, forward-looking activity into a radical technology change, WebRTC. That is plugin-less, browser-based video communication. So that you open your browser, you go to a URL, and you have a video conference. That is a capability we didn't have before. That stuff is open standard, it's already supported by Firefox and Chrome, and that means that you have 1 billion endpoints that support this. So this is going to radically level the playing field, because having a high-quality audio-video conference client is no longer a competitive advantage. That would now be in having one that is easy to use, which is typically not what we have per today. Last but not least, MOOC. The MOOC train is coming, whether we like it or not, and that's going to transform the way that people do education. That's at least what the people working on the pedagogical side of things tell me. And from the looks of it, that's going to have an impact on the type of real-time communication services and solutions that we need to provide to support that. Now, we don't know exactly what that's going to be, but my bet is that something that integrates nicely has a very big chance of doing a job there. So in comes WebRTC. So those things, I have nothing there. Why do I point there? Those four things, link deployment, different approach to room-based solutions, WebRTC, and MOOC, I think those are going to be really exciting to track closely for the next couple of years. Thank you, and I have 2 minutes to spare.
We're ahead of schedule. Okay. Which one was yours? So a reminder of the question is, what's the most exciting developments coming in video conferencing in the next 2 years? And we have Vesa here, who will introduce himself, I'm sure. Yep. Okay, there you go.
Okay, Vesa Savolainen, application specialist from Funet, Finland. Working something like 15 years in different kind of video activity projects, little and little small, bigger ones. And our, for example, normal day of working nowadays, we also have this Adobe Connect system working for, I think, 2 years now. More than half, I guess, organizations are now involved in that. And also this Nordnet MCU system for, I think, 3 years now, and some 7 or 8 organizations involved. But because we have also a couple of bigger installations, for example, in University of Eastern Finland and University of Helsinki, who running their own MCU systems. But a couple of things which are, I see, important. Are we now kind of end of H323 era? Because, for example, we are right now renewing a lot of old H323 endpoints. For example, Cisco announced, was it a year ago, that they stopped that security updates not coming anymore. And for example, those C20 systems, I think we have something like 50 to 100 endpoints in Finland Academia. And also, for example, many of those bigger installations, they have built up something like 3 to 5 years ago. And nowadays, something must be done. And how do you do that? It's depend. Are we still in H323 systems or something else? And also, which is coming up many times in Finland, is different kind of software-based H323 clients. I mean, like a standalone clients, which you can call point-to-point calls. For example, Jabber, Polycom M100, and so on. But we have a couple of times, for example, talk with Cisco about, for example, can we have that kind of common licensing pool for software-based clients for Finnish academia. And sometimes we get the answer that we can have that, but the price tag is so high, so it's no sense to use that. So the technology and licensing, for example, this software-based clients is very, I don't know the exact thing right now, but it has been somewhat has to be done, or just users don't use those systems. And one example is that was really started last year, but they have some public procurement maybe next end of this year or starting next year, is that it's kind of action program of e-services and e-democracy. It is run by Ministry of Finance, and the one part of that project is that, for example, some grandma from somewhere middle of nowhere calling video call to tax officers or police or something like that. And what we are talking there is they have to have some kind of open video client. And I have seen the first, for example, thoughts about that, how they're going to do that. One is, for example, Jabber, and I don't know about the licensing model, how they can handle that. But that's an important project which I'm CSC of UNET, we are not part of that, but for example, next week we are starting kind of a working group which is included some kind of interoperative group with different vendors and government organizations and academia and so on. So that's kind of question to all of you also. Do we need still maintain, or how long, for those legacy systems? The other one is also that what Jan mentioned, MOOC, and that's a question for us is what kind of services NRENs can offer. For example, this year we had, I think, 2 or 3 public procurements from universities which they cancelled because the definition of the project or services wasn't so good, or any companies cannot offer suitable services for them. So, and right now I think they're coming next week some new public procurement where it's based on 3 universities, and I think some 5 to 7 universities are involved with that. But they have done a little more time, and I'm really keen to that project, who they end up in results of that. So that's interesting question for FUNET also. My time is now right up.
Thank you. Who's next? Rene. Okay, Rene was only told he was doing this about 2 minutes ago. Oh, he's prepared something. This is impressive.
Well, it doesn't take a long time to wax together a presentation. But there's just two.
Do you want to take the microphone?
Yeah. At least if this one was. Yeah. So. Sorry for the slight uninspiring presentation that I whacked together for about 2 minutes ago. I got shoved into this because Eric was deemed other places, but the question, what is the most exciting aspect of video communication expected over the next 2 years? A slight background, Nordnet has since 2006 been working on video conferencing. We start off with our own internal video conference between our various sites, simply because it was too expensive to shift people around for short meetings. So we put up a MCU service, we put up a web-based service with mobile clients, and that was actually part of the initial thinking was, in principle, no matter where people are, which ancient type of equipment, which operating system they're using, which mobile device they're using, they should be able to connect. That was the original idea. That took a bit of time to getting through, but I actually think we got a long way with that. So we put in some gateways and gatekeepers to make that work. And just as an example, our pure web-based, that actually requires a download of a client, that client was downloaded over 25,000 times last year from unique IP addresses. So it gives a bit of idea that there's actually a requirement for uptake of that. That does not count all the uses of mobile devices where we have clients for Android, iPhone, and a bunch of other things in that sense. So that are actually being iPads and that type of thing. So that actually also being used quite extensively. One of the other things that we are doing is we do collaborative tools on the Dope Connect because we operate some of that infrastructure for the Nordic NRENs. And what we're also looking into that how can we integrate that with video conferencing, traditionally H2.3 and that type of things, because In principle, no matter where people are, they should be able to take advantage of that. Then, for pure selfish purposes, we started looking into streaming of meeting and conference streaming, because this was simply too expensive to keep purchasing out in the wild, out in the commercial market every time. And each time we found a vendor, 2 years later they were being acquired or got broke or something like that, and all our services were spread all over, and they were simply too cumbersome. We also, in that respect, now looking into storage, because both for video conferencing, collaborative tool storage of the meetings are actually quite a challenge, and some of the commercial providers more, how should we say, own offerings are not optimal in that perspective. So that we're also looking into. But one of the big things that we see, and I really would hope what would be an exciting aspect of video communication in the next 2 years, was some of the things that we are actually set out for some years ago is how do we secure better integration? All vendors have, in many perspectives, their own version of standards, and they all tend to say, well, that complies to the standard nearly. And that is stuff that we really need, I think, as an environment, and I think through the Global CO Forum we're trying to put some pressure on the vendors that we will actually, when people apply to a standard or say they apply to a standard, they actually do it so it can actually interoperate between the various vendors, because we don't think that we will have one system that will rule the world. We will have a congregation of various types of equipment and vendors that will be contributing to this. One of the other things that are key to us is that we don't really need people to log in. We don't want people to have an account to use it. We should just be straight out of the box, pick up your phone, dial in, or take your iPad or Android slate and just dial in over IP or over the mobile network and being able to participate in video conferencing. We don't want people to remember long and tedious logins. So that is one of the things. Ease of integration. One of the ideas initially was that instead of having to remember long and tedious IP numbers and room numbers, we should actually just be able to say, I want to talk to Dave Lambert, and things would actually work. Unfortunately, we are still a bit far from that point, but we hope that we'll get to a point, and we are working together with our partners for that. And last but not least, one of the things that I see that are important is training. Both on a producer side, here I'm meaning at the end, but also at universities, and to understand what can and cannot be do. And I think that's an area where we need to spend a lot more time, because the problem is that the amount of video conferencing experts that actually really knows their stuff out there is rather limited. And we need to find methodology, and that's why how we deal with this. Because I've scarcely found out in Nortonet that the higher education people had, the lower the threshold needed to be before people are actually capable of using video conferencing. And here we are talking about civil engineers who are not capable of using a simple IP address and a room number to dial in. So I think we really need to make things work easier, basically the press of a button. Now that's where I see some of the most or least technical capable, at least on video conferencing side, being using some of the mobile devices a lot, because they just need to type in a rather short number and then they're connected. That I hope we can achieve. We will continue to monitor any type of technology that comes in. We are totally promiscuous in that sense. We don't have any addresses against Link, Google, whatever collaborative tools that, because whatever the users are, we need to connect in the future, and that I think is the biggest challenge. Because I get a lot of links for various communication tools, and they all require a login, and I'll wind up having 15 different logins scattered over the planet, and that's not the way to collaborate. Thank you. Still 25 seconds left.
Excellent job, thank you very much. It's at short notice as well. Who's next?
I guess that's me, isn't
That's
it?
okay, yeah, okay.
So,
Shall we find your...
find my presentation.
There.
That's the one.
Ooh, doesn't like that.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Is it just not very colourful?
Let's see if it's actually contains all the. I should be all right.
Okay.
It was okay. Yeah.
Right.
So, so I want to present a couple of ideas, but also a product. And next, I want to pose a few questions to the panel and to the audience as well. So first of all, I want to talk about service silos, because I think a couple of you have touched upon this issue of integration that is a problem with our services. So service silos here is understood as a poor integration framework for between services. And especially I want to focus on these services here, because they are the ones that we deal with quite a lot, Adobe Connect and LMS systems. So what kind of integration exists here between those services? Well, if you deploy Adobe Connect in a corporate framework, that is, if you one organization that has one Adobe Connect and one LMS system, then a standard integration actually exists for example, Moodle and for Blackboard. But if you don't deploy Adobe Connect in that environment, if you deploy Adobe Connect in a federated environment, then you don't have any kind of integration. So a lecturer has to handle, for example, users and meeting rooms and recordings in two different systems, as it works today. So that is a huge problem, because, you know, Adobe Connect is actually meant for lecturing. So what if with just one click in the LMS system, you could create a meeting room and add users to that meeting room, as well as give users the right role according to the role that exists in the LMS, so that you would transfer some of those parameters from the LMS system to Adobe Connect. Next, that the meeting rooms as well as the recordings would be automatically maintained and listed in the LMS system. And last but not least, that this was actually supported across many different LMS systems. So that is what we have, that is the kind of integration that we have developed and deployed in front of our Adobe Connect. So we call that Service Connect Proxy. And today it integrates with Moodle and CampusNet, and we hope to support Blackboard also in the near future. So how does it work? But let's have a look, and now I hope that all the pictures are here, because this is the Moodle user interface, where we have opened a course in Moodle, and here you have the option to add an activity or a resource, as you can see, and we'll go ahead and do that. So here we can add Adobe Connect Meeting Room, and that is what we want. So this is the very simple user interface that you get, where you should just enter a title for the meeting room. You can also set the meeting type to lecture or presentation or collaboration. 3 types that corresponds with the role that you can have in a meeting room, that is participant, presenter, or host. So for lecture, the students will get the role as a participant. So we'll go ahead, we'll set up the meeting room, and that is now being set up on the Adobe Connect installation, and the link is automatically listed in the LMS system, as you see here. So if you click on the link to the meeting room, you'll simply open the meeting room like that. You'll get the right role in the meeting room, and you have the full access to all the functionalities in Adobe Connect, as you would expect. And you can go ahead and make a recording in the meeting, so that recording will also be listed in the LMS system. As you see here, you can click on the link for the recording, and you can open that, or you can also open the editing page for that recording, and there's a few other functionalities here that you have access to. So that is for Moodle, but we have also added that integration to CampusNet. That is a LMS that is used by the Technical University of Denmark. So here you have that. where you can also set up a meeting rooms from this web page here, and you get the recordings automatically listed here. So this is a different flavor, but in fact the same functionalities that you saw in Moodle. So all this is open source, and you can download that if you use any of these LMS systems. So that is a Connect proxy, but I think I want to this is a form of integration that has some great potential, I think, and not only for the individual user who get easy access to Adobe Connect, but I think it also has great potential in that it generate added value to a lot of services with just one integration layer, you could say. So and more so, it adds great value to services which are not even in our domain. That is the LMS systems which are installed and operated at the university level. Here we have an option actually to add great value to those systems. And the users and the universities are actually quite happy about that. We can improve systems which are not even in our domain. I think that is quite unique. So to my questions to the panel and the audience, because shouldn't we do more of this? Shouldn't we bundle our resources to support even more LMS systems in this way here? Or shouldn't we go ahead and make that kind of integration between our services? For example, it could be between Adobe Connect and the MCU service, or it could be between Adobe Connect and Captura, MediaSite, and so on. Couldn't we generate a lot of added value here as well? And in fact, wouldn't we do what we do best in that way? That is not developing products from the ground up or developing new standards from the ground up, but rather fleshing out user demands to suppliers, just like we do with Adobe, where we have meetings with Adobe where we can try to influence the product itself due to the feedback we get from users, or building this kind of integration layers between existing products and services. And that could be our own services, but it could also be local services at the university, level. And pushing for open standards to support better integration. So, with those questions, thank you very much.
Thank you. And last, we have Bartek from PSNC, and also representing EduConf. And I think you've got two PDF slides. Two PDFs there on the desktop there. I'll let you work that. Go.
Hello, my name is Bartek Dzikowski. I am from Poznań Supercomputing Networking Center, and I am here as representative of EduConf and PSNC, of course, as well. Two words about me. I am working in PSNC since 2003. I am senior IT specialist for network and software engineer, designer, and I am also responsible for video conferencing systems and streaming high-resolution video system, web-based applications in Poznań. So we have created a Polish VC service basing on MCU and H323 devices, and we have created the first 4K node in Poland, which is currently being developed. I will tell you about this a little bit later. What is most challenging from EduConf point of view? The exciting thing is that we can develop the service regarding new ideas and new achievements that are available on the market. So starting from the beginning, what is EduConf? EduConf is a web-based application which is responsible for certification and gathering information about video conferencing services and rooms. So we are able to test and to find and to gather in one directory information about the rooms and about services that are provided by different institutions, for example by NRNs. We do have the demonstration here just in the main hall on the Jant booth, so please visit us, we will show you how it works. And EduConf service consists of 3 main services. The directory, as I mentioned, is connected with monitoring. The monitoring is cooperating with directory in order to check whether the endpoints are working correctly. And we have also own world gatekeepers, 2 gatekeepers on world level, and of course some informational web page. Which are our goals that are exciting in our plans for 3-4 years? First of all, we are willing to switch because currently we are basing mostly on H323. So the most exciting thing will be to add SIP here and add Enum support. And of course, as it was already mentioned here by panelists, the integration with different different technologies will be also extremely important. First of all, WebRTC, which seems to be one of most important way of communications. So the integration here is extremely important. Of course, some mobile applications and mobile website will be needed, and more simplification. For example, adding to the directory service simple button click to connect that would simply connect 2 different endpoints just by 1 click. This would be challenging thing and very exciting. And other EduConf development ideas. These are currently just ideas. Let's see what we'll be able to choose from this list. The MCU cloud, which will create some kind of virtual MCU basing on different resources and interconnected by API. The web conferences would be also very important, and then basing, of course, as well on SIP services. Such hardware will be needed as media gateways, controllers, and proxies, of course, in order to integrate our current EduConf infrastructure. So the directory with web conferencing, with WebRTC, and with SIP services. And of course we would like to continue our goals that are being developed now, especially the simplification of the service. Our goals are dissemination and promotion. So this is obvious, and supports for institutions. And on the other hand, what is challenging is growing interests in the scientific societies. The personal endpoints are also being more and more commonly used. VC hardware equipment, as we know now, H323 terminals will... One more minute. VC hardware equipment, as we know now, as H323, for example, terminals are becoming cheaper and cheaper, but they will be still needed, in my opinion, for higher resolution and stereoscopic features in the future, probably, which is another exciting thing. And of course, SIP expansion is already seen. Another challenging issue will be probably switching to Enum. So there will be unification of contact formats, which will be easy to remember, and of course WebRTC, as I mentioned, and other panelists mentioned, will probably be extremely important in the future. So that's all from Educon's side. I am out of time, but just to mention about our vision of development in PSNC. Extremely challenging thing will be switching from 4K technology into 8K technology, which we are creating now. 8K node in PSNC. But if you have questions about 8K, please let's find time during the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bas. Okay, we're all done. You've heard from each of the panelists. I don't know if you want to hold that. Can we have the other microphone and then we can pass it along as well? So, we've heard a lot of different topics there. We've heard about integration of different video services. We've heard about making things cheaper. We've heard about making it easier for the users to use. We've heard about WebRTC. I didn't think Jan would be able to sit in any session without saying WebRTC at least once. We've heard that the MOOC train is coming, which really made me want to go choo-choo, but I didn't. But it was, there's a lot of different topics that have been raised here, just in answer to one question. So I'm sure, hopefully, that has inspired you for your own questions, which you can store for later. But the next big question I want to put to the panel, and we'll see which one of them wants to volunteer the first response to this, is about whether we should actually be doing this at all, which might be a bit of a challenge to you, seeing as all of your jobs are at stake if you say no. But it is a big question. There's a lot of different services out there that are offered by larger companies, and we can just procure them, and maybe that's enough. But a lot of NRENs go a bit further and tweak their own services. So the question to any of you, and I don't know if you have any volunteers for the first to respond. We have Rene down the end there. What is the business case for NRENs in providing video communication tools or services? Should we or shouldn't we? So Rene, if you want to kick us off.
Well, make it very, very short, I think we should. And the reason for that is because if you go to a commercial provider looking for these type of services, most of the commercial providers are focused on delivering services to a finite set of communities. They go for a community within corporations that are easy to set up. Very few of those systems are actually capable of connecting everybody to everybody. And I think that's the main thing. That's, for going back to my initial comments, that is, at least from a Nordnet point, our goal that no matter where people are coming from, they should be able to connect. And I think that's a place where the NRENs actually have a value of taking the various technologies, the various vendors, and make them work together. And to answer Torkel's question, is that something we should be doing together? Definitively. I think that's the only one way that we in the long run can actually achieve this is through collaboration, that we put our efforts together so we don't develop in silos, but that we actually go out and develop this together and figure out, for those who have certain vendors and those who have others, how can we make these things interoperate, and how can we push vendors both from a content point of view, from a standards point of view, but also from a licensing point of view. We had the same discussions as some of the Finnish and the others had, and we actually managed to get through because we were big enough to take the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone want to, right, down there at the next one. But before you kick in there, Rene's answer was that we should be, because partly because our market is slightly different to what the products the services are offering, but also because we can provide price advantages if we procure together, I think was the summary there. Jan, do you want to respond to that?
Well, I guess I would have much of the same arguments. The answer obviously is we should.
If none of you disagree here, I'm going to have to chuck in some really contentious issues.
I'll disagree later on, no worries. But in this particular case, should we be in this business? Yes, we should, because our community is not magically going to organize itself or organize its demand. So there's going to be choices that have to be made, stuff that has to be built or procured, and that's not by magic going to happen on a national level. And NRENs are paid to think nationally and interconnect internationally. Institutions are not. So there's the obvious reason why we should be in this business. Now, does that mean that we should be providing these tools, that's a separate question. And the answer to that at this moment is yes. 3 years down the line, the answer is I don't know. If, say, Google or Microsoft come with a e-learning tooling package that just solves the whole problem space for us and make it available for free, then hey, maybe we don't need to provide them. But we still have to worry about the legal frameworks, the contractual terms, everything else that comes with any cloud delivery. So yes, we should be there. Exactly what we ought to be doing, that's a different question.
But you put a very temporal time limit on that. You said right now we should be there. But
I say right now we should be providing this stuff because, yeah, if you try to procure this right now, then the price is not going to make you happy. But markets change, things change, so maybe some years from now it makes more sense to just provide a service for the whole sector rather than build it yourself. But you still have to integrate it. There are legal concerns that have to be addressed, and someone has to do all that.
So we have to keep testing this business case to make sure we're right to provide each service. Okay, does anyone want to respond to these points?
I could have a short comment.
Yeah, please do.
I think one of the things that we can do, I do agree with Jan that we should always evaluate whether we should provide the service or not. I think we have one thing that really, really differs us from the Microsoft, the Googles and the others, is that we are not here to tie in customers to a specific solution. Most of the commercial providers would like to put some kind of differentiator in that will tie you to Microsoft or Avaya or Cisco or the Google community or Facebook, whoever's come down the line. I think our obligation is to be sure that these things integrate, and I think that's where we have the role. Whenever the tools in the background then change, then fine that we don't provide the service directly, but I see us much more as integrators than creators, and I think see us as integrators and creating integration tools that are forcing down the line, because many of the commercial providers, their business model is to tie customers in and keep them for themselves and not share them with others. And I think we are in the total different business.
So we have a role in providing interoperation between different service providers in a way, which they resist as much as possible every time. Any of you other guys want to respond to this question here? What is the business case? What has been your particular selling point, the business case, to get this past the CEO when you need to make a major investment?
For our case in Finland, for example, I have made some calculations about those business cases with Jari, for example, in Funet, that what kind of, for example, price tag we put to that Adobe Connect service. And I know, for example, there's different variations in Nordic countries, for example, how to monetize or be productive in those cases. And in some cases, it's a lot of difficulties in doing where you can put that price tag, and how you can, for example, whom takes the risk. For example, is Nordnes, it is providing licenses or some kind of MCU ports or something else. Do they make that risk? Do we make that risk, or do we outsource it to the universities? It's one also the question about that business case or business modeling.
Okay, anyone else to comment there? One thing that René said when in his first comment was that we have a different market, and some of the services and tools are not aimed at our market. I might even object to that. I don't know if our market is that different. We like to think that research and higher education and education are different to small enterprises or businesses. But are they doing different things enough to justify us inventing whole new services around this? Because they're not cheap to do that. Can any of you respond to that? Do any of you? I can see both down the end there are chomping at the bit. How about you three guys in the middle? Do you have any justification for doing your own thing?
Well, I think we're quite different in the way that we actually want to collaborate, and we can see a benefit of that. That is often not anything you can see in the market, that you know, big corporations do that kind of collaboration that we do in this sector here. And I think for that reason alone, we're quite different. And we also see that often when we talk to the vendors and the suppliers of these products, you know, that we are different in that way. You know, just deploying Adobe Connect in a federated fashion, you know, that's new to them. That's a new approach. They don't know exactly what to do with that, and so on. And that goes for a lot of the products, a lot of the services, that we have a different approach than what they see from the rest of their customers. That I think can be a benefit, but in our approach directly to the suppliers, it can be, not a benefit at all, you know, because we really have to work with them to make them understand, you know, what are the demands here.
Can make the negotiation more difficult.
Exactly.
Yes. We'll go. I'm happy to take questions from the audience, by the way, on this topic. If any of you want to raise any questions to the panel about the business case, about the reason for us doing this, about whether we really should be. Do any of you want to add anything more to that question there?
I just wanted to add that I can see from our perspective that we as a research society, we are also triggering the development of business companies. For example, if we need some advanced and really very advanced hardware for visualization purposes, as for example 8K and so on, we are talking with companies about this. They are a little bit surprised, and they are also always saying, okay, we have to think about that. We have to find a solution. So the interaction between research society and business society is also triggered from our side.
Okay, so inspiring other technologies to be developed as well. Any questions from the audience on this? I won't be putting up with any of this Nordic stoicness that you're so famous. I would thank you very much. Can we pass one of the microphones out to? Yeah.
We have two user groups. We have students and other ones involved in learning stuff, and then we have researchers. Everyone else is just to help those two groups. And if you look at the way those two groups work, the researchers are pretty much like other people who work together with people. One of the things that is glaringly missing from all of the presentations here is the fact that many of the researchers work together with local businesses. So being able to connect to local and not
Some quite challenging comments there. Are there any particular areas you'd like the panel to address first? We've got reaching out to local businesses. What's the next cool thing in video? Can we get data involved? Anybody want to respond to any of those points? Anyone feeling brave enough? Rene, go. Is there a microphone you can use? Pass him the microphone, please. Thank you.
Several things. Firstly, I think, especially in the teaching situation, I think that's where we have one of the biggest challenges, because teaching is not just sharing data and what goes on the screen, but it's actually also creating a virtual environment of what you would have it if you were actually present, which means that you need to embed video with authentication, you need to embed it with sharing data, sharing what you have in the classroom. And there I don't think we really have something that are like a package solution right now. Not that we should necessarily go out and develop it, but we should try to push in that direction. So I think that is a huge challenge before we can go really down the MOOCs line and offer that. I think also in the community there will be different types of institutions. I actually think that if the NRENs or the organizations, any organization that offer this for a greater constituency in that sense, will also have the advantages for the smaller universities, because many of the smaller universities, the smaller institutions, will not have the ability to provide these type of tools, and they would either die or they would have to congregate with others or biggest in that sense. So I see an opportunity not just for large and small universities in one country, but actually also for the universities to be able to offer teaching, maybe from teaching capabilities from abroad. You can actually do that, but I think that will require that you create a more online tool that encompasses all of the aspects of sharing, not just video and that.
Okay. Any other comments on the question or René's comment? All right, we're going to move on to the next question then. Thank you for your input. So the next one, what are the easy to solve problems and solutions that every NREN could do to increase the use of video communications? So there should be quite a lot of ideas for this, I expect. This could cover many areas, whether these are technical solutions, user education, better tools that would fit their use more. Does anyone want to kick us off on this one? Is there any way we can stop René answering every question so well, so that it doesn't leave anything for anyone? Does anyone want to kick us off on this? Easy to solve problems and solutions that NRENs could do. Bart, yes.
Yeah, just two short ideas of EduConf, of course, which could help to increase the usage of video conferencing services. And the second thing is WebRTC, in my opinion. These two ideas could give a great start to increase the video conferencing communication between NRNs and not only between NRNs.
Okay, just before I go to Jan on that, the question's about easy to solve problems and solutions. So WebRTC is still a little bit, I'd say that's not easy yet, not quite ready. This is just my opinion. You mentioned EduConf, and the question earlier was about whether we should be doing EduConf, I think was or what some of the EduConf tools, about whether, I would respond that if you think there's another directory out there or another easy testing tool that the NRENs can use, then you should point it out and we might consider changing our strategy. But I agree that EduConf's an easy thing to use. If you can look at the demonstration outside, it's just an easy test system. WebRTC is a future step. Does anyone else want to comment then? Jan, you were going to comment. So we've got easy to solve problems and solutions.
Well, we're stuck with the current technology stack that we have, because as you say, WebRTC is getting there, but I'm using it in some projects to actually work with people, and it's not stable enough yet. You don't want to deploy this to millions of people yet, unless you're Google, who've done this in Hangouts. But we don't have that type of resources, so we're stuck with what we have. That means that one thing you can do is make it easier for people to understand how to use that. And what we're planning to do is have a MOOC developed that helps people with that. So then you would have an easy to hop on educational bit, which you can do anytime, any place, anywhere, and takes you about 3 hours is our estimate, and then you would actually have gained some practical experience. Because out of those, we serve about 300,000 end users, and the majority of those have a very different job from understanding IT systems. So they have another job that they just want to get on with, and they don't want to spend too much time on understanding the systems we have. So most of the systems we have you can actually use if you know how to find your way around them. So that's one thing that we're doing.
Yeah, partly also replying to Ingrid's comments here about what we can do and what about the teaching scenarios. I mean, it's a good thing, and René mentioned it as well, that we should provide some training because there are less and less specialized resources at the universities. My experience is, since I've been a university teacher myself, and I've been training university teachers for 20 years, is that they don't find the time to hop on MOOCs and get educated that way. So the challenge is more like what kind of ways could we collaborate on, apart from MOOCs, apart from websites, apart from these kind of traditional information resources that would get the actual end users of the services to want to make a change to the way they are doing their business, that is teaching. And that is a thing I think we should gather some ideas on. One way we're trying to do it is engaging people from different universities and just using the tool, and by using the tool showing how it is used in a real-time scenario, because that's what the thing is about. I mean, real-time communication should be demonstrated and used and explained in a real-time session. So that's why we started the Effective Webinars movement and Facebook group, and trying to crowdsource all the information that is out there to contribute to that, and also finding teachers with their needs where they are, because that is the real challenge. I think we can throw lots of different and easy to use solutions at them, but the actual challenge is to make them change the way they're doing their business. And we don't really have very good methods for that yet.
So we need to find a way of making people change their tactics, thought out.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, okay, we get a very large usage of Adobe Connect, and what I said in my presentation is we don't really actually know if this is done good. Is it really benefiting the students? Is there an impact on learning the way it is done today? We ask our local support representatives, what do you know about it? Or we got no time for evaluating this.
So there's been no research done to find out if Adobe Connect actually is of benefit compared to...
Well, we just do we have lots of assumptions, and one assumption is probably like revealed preferences. Since it's used, it has to be some benefit in it. So far, so good. But is it used in a good and beneficial way?
Or is it just better than driving 100 miles?
Yeah, or there are just people doing their PowerPoint presentations and having not a dialogue, not very much of interactivity, but just presenting their stuff and having students watching this. We don't know.
Okay, Thorchild? Or René and...
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on this with easy solutions, because I think there's two ways to work with that. One is to work with the technologies that actually exist there, and the APIs that you already have, where you can make things easier, and for users to use the products. And I believe the kind of integration that you can actually do in LMS systems, where people already they know the LMS system, they are comfortable in that system. If you can just add the components there for video conferencing, for example, with a few clicks, well, that is going to make it so much easier for people to use the products. That is one thing we can see with the integration with Adobe Connect, for example. It's so difficult for people to set up a meeting room in Adobe Connect for teaching. It's pretty easy to walk into Adobe Connect and just have a meeting. So, but using Adobe Connect for teaching is actually quite difficult, and that's quite bad. You know, Adobe Connect is very much made for teaching, and the benefit of using Adobe Connect is very much in teaching. So that is one thing, but working with the suppliers, I think that's also an easy way to solve problems. If we really get a good relationship to the suppliers and we can influence them, we can actually change bits and pieces in the products that makes it so much easier for users to use. Take Scopy Desktop, for example. You know, people didn't know how to activate the microphone. Just getting a small message in the corner, left corner of the product, you know, and people actually know how to help themselves now in a meeting, lowering all the support tickets that we get in that respect. And that also goes for Adobe Connect, where we can actually change the product here and there for the better of users. So I think working with the suppliers as well as actually working with the product itself, making integrations between services, I think that's the easy way to solve the problems. WebRTC, I think would be very nice when we're there, but I think it's not an easy road to go down.
So you're suggesting user interface issues, or tweaking the user interfaces, working with suppliers to do that is an easy route. Okay.
Yeah.
René, Vesa, any comments on? Good.
Just for the fun of it, if there were any easy problems to solve, we'd already done it. And I think that ties into what Torgill was talking about, that we really need to work together, because if things were easy, if there were things that could be solved within a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks of hacking around for our staff, we would probably already done it. So I think the only thing is that we can do is to work together, take the issues that we have and develop both tools, services and training to address the issues that we talked about here. So I'm sorry to say I don't think that there are any easy things that we can fix just around the corner.
Okay, I think Peter might have a comment on that one from the audience.
Right, so this is Peter, Secretary Terena. I'd just like to put another fish on the table, which is partly my fish, which is about solving the globally unified and agreed addressing and naming problem. And this is the problem space where the commercials are not interested in or not motivated to solve, because they're still building up their own business and walled gardens in that respect. So you have to have your Skype ID, Google account, phone number, all these various addressing schemas to get the connectivity that you need. And that's what probably René commented, and that he just want to call Dave Lambert or anyone else and not thinking about is he available on Skype or has a phone number or where is he at the moment or how to reach him. So that's the problem space, I think, where the commercials are not motivated and the NRANs have a good space to move in, because we are in this identity business, we are in the access federations business, and we should solve this problem. And we have a sort of easy way technically to do that, which is basically DNS lookup and enum and NRAN enum and the NRAN enum service that we are doing. And I'm again a bit challenging the panel, saying that probably we do not spend enough time and efforts on solving this problem, which is really for the NRANs to solve. Although we spend many time on things like protocol gateways and WebRTC and SIP and all the stuff that the commercials also do. So I would rather suggest to move into the space which is not really covered by the commercials and really for NRANs.
Okay, I'd like to just play devil's advocate there. If you think an easy problem would be to try and solve the addressing problems and the number identifications to make it easier for users to figure out how to call people on whatever system, Jan might say that if WebRTC is coming along, which will remove a lot of that complexity and provide everybody with an easy to access video system that you don't need numbering for, should we not invest more in WebRTC right now than investing in supporting legacy systems? Either of you feel poked by that? Okay.
That's the annoying thing. WebRTC solves a significant chunk of the problem space, but it doesn't resolve the signaling bit. So you still need something in place for that. Now, what I do believe, though, is this whole silly business that users have to remember numbers to find each other.
Yep.
We should really stop doing that, because that makes no sense whatsoever.
I agree.
And I also believe we should take the axe to a number of other components in the current infrastructure. The less stuff you have to worry about, the easier stuff becomes.
Okay, any comments from the audience there on easy to solve solutions? You might have some ideas yourself. Yes? Yari, can we get a microphone to him?
Thank you. Well, I have a question on practices. So I think the Swedish representative mentioned that they have something like open educational practice. And you know, this is a question, it originates from the fact that, okay, if we have some instructions or guidelines for the community, could we share it? So I guess the practical question is that can this kind of practice jump from one country to another, or from one community to another? So I suppose the Swedish representative could be a good person to answer this question, please.
Well, I'm not sure. But it definitely would need some courage to try and see if that's possible. But it could be an easy to solve problem, because I think basically we're in the same kind of business. It's higher education, and it's about making use of this kind of technology for reaching out and opening up education. This is an item that's been around for a while, and that I think that we in the Swedish context are not too good at the moment. I don't really know how far you've come in Norway and Finland and Denmark on this issue. But our way of using Connect in a collaborative way, pairing together 10, 14 universities and arranging just a sort of webinars, which we framed as this is kind of our open education practice, using it in a very open way, making it easy to join, even for smaller and medium-sized companies, Ingrid, was a way of showing how to use the tool that is just perfectly easy to copy. And it would, of course, be interesting to gather, because we find that teachers are in a way that they might have difficulties to work together with the one who is sitting beside at the same institution. But saying, for instance, if there is a sort of a webinar or an online event that would take up on how do maths teachers do effective online synchronous events with somebody from Denmark and Norway and Finland, would be an easy to achieve thing that would benefit a subgroup, a subset of teachers at our universities. And this kind of stuff I think we should engage with, because that's easy and that's appreciated at universities at the end users, and it gives them some sort of incentive of, well, I could do this also, and it's possible, and I can take some first steps, and here are a great community that share their experience about how it is to be done.
Okay, did that answer your question, Yari? Any other comments on that, or any other questions from the floor? Okay, we've talked about different types of tools. We've talked about trying to adjust the user interface to make it a little bit easier. Any comments from your institutions, or okay, we've got one just over here.
Kurt Nielsen from University of Southern Denmark. I think actually the techniques like these Adobe Connect and other web platforms, the point actually, the finger points inside to the university institutions. I think the biggest challenge for me is actually getting the teachers the capability to use these technologies. I think they're quite easy to use. I think we have succeeded in having good education. We have a flipped classroom and so on. So it's good covered that this is actually a good tool for a mass university. So our next challenge is actually giving our teachers the capability to use these techniques. So what is the NREN's role in this? I don't see the big role. The role is the inside institution. We have to have institutions, teachers that go teach other teachers in using Adobe Connect and other techniques. So this is from my point of view. I know the challenge is probably more inside than outside on this.
So you think it's a staff training issue? Okay. Any comments on that on the panel?
Well, as I just mentioned, we've been doing this for 20 years now, staff training, and it's a hard issue, isn't it? So there are probably not the right incentives in place. There are probably no overall strategies for if you're taking this or that approach at the university, and you would always look after allikes and peers at other places, in other organizations. So that was my point, where there could be an NREN intermediating, finding people, building community across institutions. So even if it's a staff development or staff teaching problem, you would have to have other universities and other countries' universities take on that and their organization. What really works in staff development and other universities, this would be the thing to collaborate about then. And that's what we're doing in Sweden. I don't know if you don't do it in Denmark, but we do it all the time.
Any other comments on staff training or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we would even collaborate and on how you do your staff training within your organization, because that's quite.
So you do see it as an NREN role?
Pardon?
You do see it as part of the role of the NREN?
It could be one part of it. I mean, we don't have a specific e-learning function at SUNET at the moment, but it's within these services that we provide. We're trying to achieve this kind of collaboration between the different universities, local support organizations. Yes.
Okay. Reza?
In FUNET case, I think almost all, I guess there was one or two organizations which doesn't use Adobe Connect at the first when it was released, something like 7, 8, I don't know, years ago, after the breeze. And all those universities have their own help desk and stuff, and tutorials and so on. But after 2 years now, when we are building this Nordnet-based common usage Adobe Connect, after that we have kind of building a community to users and also lecturers and specialists together with those organizations. And I think that's worthwhile. For example, you don't have to have every organization have their own tutorials or different kind of stuff. So.
Any other comments? Okay, Jan? And we plenty more time for questions from anyone in the audience here if you have any.
Yeah, so we provide central infrastructure, shared infrastructure, so there are some things that we ought to provide. So something we provide is a central support portal with self-help and addresses to the support people. But we also, coincidentally, recently had a discussion on, okay, so how far should we go as a national project, national program? And the clear answer of our community, so we have community representatives that give input to us, and they said, look, this is very much an institutional responsibility. You can go so far in providing certain means that make this easier, but if an institution doesn't set up a local support function and puts time and effort in training up its people, then nothing will happen because you're not big enough to solve the problem by throwing money at it. Now, having said that, I do remember that the Trondheim Uni, a traditional problem with researchers that need to teach is that they know how to research but not necessarily how to teach. So they have this program to teach researchers pedagogical skills, and all of a sudden it became much more interesting for researchers to do that when having a permanent contract at the uni depended on it. No permanent contract, no mortgage, no house. Now, there is an incentive. And such incentives do much more wonders than whatever money we can throw at it.
We've had the link to that. We've had great success in the UK with encouraging the use of video conferencing by deans of universities or CEOs cracking down on the number of travel expenses that anyone is allowed to claim, and insisting that if a new project starts, it has to have a minimum of travel budget and use video technologies. And where they've done that, and it's actually been they've been forced to learn how to use the technology, they've had a bit more success and people have begrudgingly begun to accept it. But I agree, if you leave people up to their own devices without the actual incentives, then it is difficult to make people change the habits. Any more comments or questions from the floor there on this? I'd like to ask you, yesterday in the WebRTC group, and this is only because the conversation here is heavily focused on Adobe Connect, because I understand that that's used quite a lot within the Nordic region. There were a lot of comments about the future changes in browsers that might mean that Flash and the technology behind Adobe Connect might not last for much more than a couple of years. I don't mean to scare anybody, but do you put any weight to these concerns? Is that a no?
Well, obviously, since I'm trying to pull together an international activity on actually trying to get WebRTC deployed sooner rather than later, obviously we care. My contract with the Adobe Connect license provider terminates in 2018. So for all practical purposes, that means I need an alternative by 2016. Otherwise, I can't switch it off in 2018.
Right.
And my best guess is that we ought to target switching it off, looking at the other components that we have in the infrastructure. So, okay. Yeah, it's just an additional worry, but one that we are trying to tackle.
René, do you have any comments about the Nordinet provision of Adobe Connect? I wondered if you'd heard about any of the concerns. I can't remember, somebody was in the group yesterday. Who was raising this topic? Leif, yes.
Well, I'm not deep into that. I do think that Adobe Connect have a finite lifetime as such. And I think that it will be moving over to WebRTC or others. I don't think that WebRTC solves all the questions or issues that we raised today. And I think history shows that technology has a tendency to live longer than you anticipate. Also because that there are people, how would you say, both. There are areas where development goes fast and areas where development do not go fast. If you look at H323, interesting seeing when we started bringing inruns on our MCU platform, the amount of old H323 equipment people could dig out of the cellar and utilize for that because it was now necessary. I think we will see that linger on for many years, and even though it would be nice to move some of these things, I think, technology die hard.
Do you think Jan's timeline is feasible and realistic then?
I think, yeah, I like the optimism, but I would like to see it actually takes place. Even though I'm not a big Flash advocate in that sense.
Right. Any other comments from anyone here? Okay, yeah.
One comment about that. Adobe is based on Flash, okay, but there may be another solution, maybe. Like Big Blue Button, for example, changed from Flash to WebRTC. Maybe Adobe will go the same way. So I think the Flash will die sooner or later because of changes in browser. But Adobe solution may still exist using WebRTC instead of Flash.
Okay. Torvald, did you want to comment? And then we'll probably have to wrap up after that.
Yeah, that was also more or less my comment, but I think we for a long time have heard that Flash is out. At least the last 5 years we've heard that, and it's still very much around. I cannot see any thing happening where we should be scared of Flash not being supported in the browsers. Maybe I don't know everything about the technologies in the browser happening there, though. But I also want to say that Adobe Connect, I'm sure, will move in that direction. So I guess what will happen for Adobe Connect, that is that it will change over time, that we will still deploy the service, but there might be other tools and services that are interesting for users to deploy parallel to, for example, Adobe Connect or any other system that we use, being it classic video conferencing systems as well. So I guess that we'll see that change over the next couple of years, but I cannot see anything happening where we, just like that, will go from one system to the other, not supporting some of the systems that already have a huge user base.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists for your comments. We've run out of time now. I got the impression they were just getting going. But we can't keep these people from their lunch any longer. You've got an hour and a half for lunch, then some lightning talks, and then the video sessions carry on again in this room. And I'll be able to take a chance at presenting on the Janet vCine project. But if you'd like to join me in thanking all of our panelists for their interesting discussions, I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Thank you very much. See you all later.